Hello, my name is Shane, and I'm going to be teaching you about what an action potential is and what happens during each stage. Basically, an action potential is a change of electrical potential across a membrane of a nerve cell or a muscle cell. The impulse travels from the dendrites to the cell body, down the axon, and then to the axon terminal. Alright, this is a basic graph of what an action potential looks like. There are four main stages in an action potential. First, there's the resting potential, there's depolarization, repolarization, and then the refractory period. The first stage is called resting potential. During resting potential, the voltage stays at negative 70 millivolts, and it stays in this stage until the threshold is met. In the cell membrane, there are gates for potassium and sodium ions. During resting potential, both gates are open, but sodium ions are highly concentrated on the outside of the membrane, and potassium ions are highly concentrated on the inside. A way to remember this is salty banana. In order for an active potential to occur, the impulse has to reach enough strength to reach threshold. Threshold is roughly negative 55 millivolts. If threshold is not reached, the neuron will remain in the resting state, and it will result in a failed initiation. The second stage is depolarization. After threshold is met, the sodium channel is open and the sodium ions rush into the cell membrane. This makes the membrane more positively charged. And at the same time, the potassium channel is closed, so the potassium ions stay inside the cell membrane too. The third stage is repolarization. In this stage, the potassium channels slowly open and the sodium channels close. Because of the potassium channels are open, the potassium ions rush outside the cell membrane. As a result, the voltage goes down. The final stage of an action potential is the refractory period. The refractory period is caused by the slow closing of the potassium channels and the inactivity of the sodium channels. It causes the voltage to go below the resting state. This is important because it prevents an action potential from happening again while it is recovering, and it prevents a signal from going back up the neuron. In order to get back to the resting state, sodium and potassium pumps use ATP to transport 3 potassium outside and 2 sodiums inside, and this causes the cell to go back to the resting state. To review, during the resting state, the sodium and potassium channels are open, but the sodium is inside the membrane and potassium is outside. During depolarization, the sodium channels are open and the sodium ions go into the cell membrane. During repolarization, the potassium channels are open and the potassium goes outside the cell membrane. Finally, during the refractory period, the sodium-potassium pumps use ATP in order to get sodium outside the membrane and potassium back inside the membrane. That is what an action potential is. Thanks for watching.